Tucker Carlson just interviewed the most dangerous economist in the world. Dr. Richard Werner exposed the secret fuel behind inflation, war, and inequality. Another billboard for Bitcoin, whether he said the word or not. Here are 9 truths they never wanted you to hear. Truth number 1. Banks don't lend your savings. They create new money out of thin air by issuing credit. Banks are not financial intermediaries. They create money out of nothing. Every mortgage, car loan, and student debt creates brand new dollars. This is fiat's engine.
Financial intermediaries. Banks are special. They have a unique power that no other player in the economy has, and that is the power to create money. When you get a loan, no money is transferred to you. It's transferred away from anywhere else, and you just credited new money out of nothing that is not transferred away anywhere inside or outside the bank, which seems, quite sort of extreme.
Like magic.
In fact, one uses, the convention is to use Latin for this. The money is created ex nihilo, out of nothing.
Just to be clear, not just central banks.
Any bank. In fact, that's the whole point. We're talking about normal banks. With central banks, it wouldn't be a surprise.
But the Bank of Omaha can
Yes, any bank creates money. When you take out a loan, the money that you're given as the borrower didn't previously exist. It is net new purchasing power that is being created and added to the money supply. And that's how the system works.
Truth number 2. Inflation isn't an accident. It's engineered. Bank credit for consumption is inflationary. And that's what we had in 2021 to 2022. The system requires constant credit growth to stay afloat. That means prices must rise forever.
These bank loans don't even contribute to national income. The real estate lending and asset lending. But when banks lend to the economy, to the real economy, we have 2 possibilities. Number 1, if banks lend for consumption, consumer loans, what happens is these consumers now have suddenly purchasing power. And of course, they're taking out the loan to spend. That's why it's called a consumer loan. So we get more consumer spending. But have we increased the quantity of goods and services in the system? No. So this creates inflation. So bank credit for consumption is inflationary. And that's what we had, of course, in 2021-22.
Truth number 3. The housing crisis is no accident. When banks lend for real estate, they pump new money into the market and push prices higher. It's not demand, it's leverage. The middle class gets priced out. The system rewards debt.
If they were just financial intermediaries, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it's money creation. So actually, the banks are creating a lot of money and they're pumping it into the real estate market. And now you don't have to have studied economics to tell me what's going to happen with real estate prices. When all the banks are creating new money and they're pumping it into the real estate market through their real estate lending.
What's going to happen is what's happening in the United States, where real estate becomes unaffordable.
Exactly. It's not rocket science. Real estate prices are pushed up. This is true for all assets. So when banks lend a lot for financial assets, the values of these financial assets will be pushed up.
Truth number 4. It's a Ponzi scheme by design. It only works as long as banks continue to create more credit. This is why no US administration will ever let the music stop. The cost of not printing is collapse.
But it's a Ponzi scheme because it works only as long as the banks continue to create more credit for others to join the game and buy these assets. And the moment the music stops, the banks don't increase credit for asset purchases, then asset prices won't rise anymore. Because with this, when I discovered this, I found the causal factor behind the land price rises. And I tested it and it's true. It's the real estate lending explains the real estate price movement very nicely. And that's, of course, that has many consequences.
Truth number 5. Central banks were built for war. The Act of Parliament establishing the Bank of England says the purpose is to make war. The Fed was founded in 1913. World War I began in 1914. Before central banks, wars ended when the gold ran out. Now they can last forever.
Well, central banking and warfare are very closely linked. As I said, the modern major bank, the first modern major bank and central bank, was the Bank of England, of course. And in the very act of Parliament, the law founding it, it says this institution and mechanism, because they didn't want resistance, they don't mention Bank of England. What we're doing here is establishing the Bank of England. They kept that secret. We're doing a new mechanism by these investors to raise and lend a lot of money to the government, namely by establishing a company. Would be allowed to establish a company, that's the Bank of England, in order for what? In order to wage war. It was in order to make war. So they're closely linked. And of course, if you look at
its founding document, it says that.
In exactly the Act of Parliament establishing the Bank of England, it said the purpose is to make war. Do you know why the Federal Reserve was established? And there was a rush to establish it for 1914.
The year the First World War started.
Exactly.
Destroyed Europe. Yeah.
And again, it was done with subterfuge. I mean, they're gathering everyone on the 23rd of December 1913 when nobody was there. And then also introducing income tax. That's also at the Bank of England. It was established together in the same act, calling for establishing new taxes.
Truth number 6. The two central banks that funded World War I were run by brothers. One funded the Kaiser, the other built the Fed. The soldiers were enemies, their bankers were kin. Fiat is dangerous, it severs spending from consequence. It funds destruction through silent theft.
The central bank of the United States, the Fed, was created right before the war. I mean,
yes,
right before the war,
exactly.
2 months before the war. What was the role of the central banks during that war? The most important war in the last 1,000 years.
Yeah, well, it was really at the pinnacle of the war economy. There's no doubt about that. It's very clear. And the same is true, of course, for the other side. And now from 1917, the US and Germany were at war, which is very sad. A lot of Americans are of German descent, and Germans didn't really want to be at war with Germany, but that's what happened. So we've got these two countries at war, sad, the soldiers dying in the trenches, and their economies organized as war economies. At the pinnacle of the war economies are the central banks. So who were the key players in the German central bank, the Reichsbank, which was 100% privately owned? Well, was somebody called Max Warburg, or Max Warburg, you might say in English. And who was at the pinnacle, in fact, was a founder of the Federal Reserve, and who was the key person there? Was somebody called Paul Warburg, his brother. But of course, the soldiers have to kill each other, and these two countries are...
Wait. The head of the German central bank and the head of the American central bank were run by brothers during a war between the US and Germany?
Yes. Now, I have to qualify it. They weren't the formal governors, but they were the key people.
Truth number 7. CBDCs are the final boss. Central banks are breaking the old agreement and aiming to replace commercial banks entirely. It's not innovation. It's central planning at the monetary layer, programmable money, automated surveillance, and no exit door.
We've been using BDC, bank digital currency, for half a century, almost, yeah. So that's not new. What is new about CBDC? Well, it's the C, central, the centralization. It's about centralizing things. Central banks are about to break this old contract, this deal between the banks and the central bank. The deal was central banks are supposed to be specialized to stand behind the banks, back them up when needed, but not replace the banks. CBDC is the central banks opening accounts for the general public at the central bank, which means that you just need to create the next banking crisis, and the central banks are very good at doing that. And all the money will leave the banks, the banking system will shut down, and it will all be in the central bank. And we have, hey presto, we've gone backwards. Our central planners in Europe, in Brussels and at the ECB, they are killing banks, and they want to now introduce CBDCs, which means they want to move to central planning. And the same, as any country in the US. At the moment, the Fed is saying, fortunately, no, we're not going to do this. But of course, they're studying it and they're preparing for it. So when the time is right, I'm sure they'll wheel it out, because central bankers, they're human. They're tempted by the temptations of power. They already have so much power. de facto no accountability. I mean, when are central banks held to account for their actions?
No, you can't audit them. You can't really know what they're doing.
So we need to oppose the introduction of CBDCs. And of course, it's not just that, what I mentioned, it's much worse because it's a programmable control tool.
Of course.
And the programmability is really scary.
Instant compliance.
And they have said this, central bankers have said this, that they can then write the rules and they have the technology to enforce those rules. And that's what's going to happen with CBDC. So it's not really money, it's potential money. You have to apply, may I please use it to buy XYZ? Oh, sorry, your carbon footprint has been used up, or whatever the excuse may be, you're outside the 15 minutes city.
Or you criticize the central banks.
Or you've been a critic criticizing central banks. Very sinister.
Truth number 8. Bitcoin is the exit. No leverage, no bailouts, no backdoor to war, fixed supply, predictable issuance, programmed truth in a world of manipulated lies. The fiat system is credit-fueled control. Bitcoin is peaceful resistance.
Yeah.